when I hear people talk about consciousness, it's confusing to me, but they're really not talking about awareness. So we need a new vocabulary to talk about the specific aspects of what today is called consciousness, and specific aspects of what I learned in theosophy and other esoteric groups, which I call awareness. So for me, they're definitely different. We have different levels of consciousness, we have different level of awareness. That's what meditation is about. And the classic model of meditation, there's 6 different levels. That means 6 different levels of awareness. Now, Dr. Tiller said, we were talking about this one day, he said, I think there's at least 19, 20 levels of awareness. I said, so you understand what I'm saying about conscious and awareness? He said, oh yeah. Most people say, well, we have that many different levels of consciousness, but it's many different levels of awareness. The model for meditation has helped me considerably to see the difference between wake and unawake, or altered state.
Would you say that our souls, are the basic nature of what we are, is filtered more or less by our physical existence? In other words, do our brains act as some kind of a filter, more or less, for our souls or our consciousness?
I use the analogy. I like analogies. They help me. In metaphors and analogies. Physically, we go through various states of development. In Hinduism, they talk about the 7 levels of development physically. From the fetus to birth to childhood, pubescence, adolescence, maturity, and preparation for the transition. And according to those models in Hinduism, it is said that's where most people got the concept of reincarnation, because in that paradigm, they talked about from fetus to birth was a reincarnation, and from birth to childhood is a reincarnation. But they misunderstood the concept of what was putting forth, and we have today that we come back again into this world. But in Hinduism, you never go back, you go forward. So in regards to I think I forgot your question.
Well, I was asking about the nature of consciousness and whether or not our physical bodies act as a filter. Our
yes.
brains act as a filter for our consciousness, and would we find ourselves in a complete state of awareness once freed of our physical existence?
Well, my understanding is that in this experience we call life is the onset of the development of both the physical body short term and development of the soul long term. The metaphor that was used, that I've read, it makes sense to me. It says, out of the universal sea of consciousness, I think this is Carl Jung and also religious writings. Out of the universal consciousness, one, I'll call it atom, was removed. At that point, it was removed at the moment the child was conceived in the womb of the mother. And this experience that we're having today, that you and I experience, as related to the developmental stages of the soul itself that goes through an infinite stages of development, is the first step of the development of the soul. So the first step of the development of the soul is in the body. And the next one is something not in the body, but something else. And it goes on endlessly. So the parallel is as we as humans develop from fetus to adulthood to maturity to death, the soul does the same thing. It had a beginning, taken out of the universal consciousness, placed in a body, or they combined, and then when the body no longer functions, the soul is going to the next stage of development, as we do from birth to childhood to the different levels. The soul is doing the same thing.
Would it be possible to think of the body in this limited 3 or 4 dimensional existence as something akin to a chrysalis, perhaps?
A what?
A chrysalis, or a cocoon, like for a butterfly.
That's a good metaphor, or a good analogy. Yeah, I like that very much, because before it was before it even became a life in a cocoon, it was in the butterfly, and then it was placed in a cocoon and it went through different stages of development. I remember that in a biology class. It goes through several stages of development until it leaves the cocoon and flies. And this process goes all over. Reincarnationists would say, yeah, that's reincarnation. But I said, no, it's not the same butterfly. It's a different butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most common analogies used in reincarnation is the reincarnation of the tree seasonally. It has leaves. Right now we're losing the leaves. It'll come back next spring, it's reincarnated. I said, no, that's not reincarnation, because it's a cycle of the tree and its length, because eventually that tree dies. That's not reincarnation. And the leaves come and go. Some of the leaves might be seeds and create new trees, but it's not the original tree. It's not a reincarnation of the tree.
You talk about the soul, like just a moment ago you mentioned it being somewhat akin to an atom or a small piece of the universal consciousness.
Yes.
Is that God?
Well, my answer to that would be yes. That if we were taken out of the universal sea of consciousness, as Carl Jung puts, or in the Baha'i writings too, the whole purpose of that appears to be, almost whimsically, it appears to be we were taking out of this universal sea of consciousness to go through all these experiences so we can refine ourselves to get back to where we started. Because there's one prayer, passage out of a book titled Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah. And it says in this passage, this confession of helplessness that ultimately every mature mind is impelled to make is the acme of human understanding and a culmination of man's development. I look at that and I say, I understand. In this process, where we're given individuality, because we call ourselves by a certain name, we have a certain identification of the body, we think we're not part of this greatest force, God. But actually, it's just another form of that creative force from which we began and where we'll end. And the difference of the experience is how well we work at being selfless so we can give back without the pain and problems we have in the process from the beginning to the transition to the end.
Does love matter?
Oh, absolutely. Love, compassion, selflessness, forgiveness, all are aspects of the development of the soul. In fact, on that monograph, I'm writing another monograph. It talks about the four states of matter. Well, with the concept of yin-yang or complementarity, I'm writing a paper on the four non-states of matter. If we have four states, then there has to be four non-states. And if the non-states, interesting enough that you should say love, I have love as one of those elements of the non-state. And I think I have 27 different aspects or definitions of love. And I'm glad you asked that. I forgot about that. I sometimes forget what I've written and what I've said. Yes, definitely. Love is not merely a word. Love is a power source we have yet to define because we do not have the vocabulary to define it any more than we have a vocabulary to clearly define consciousness.
Are love and consciousness directly related?
I believe love and awareness are directly related. I believe love is part of awareness. Forgiveness is a part of awareness. And it manifests in a conscious state in the manner in which we talk, the manner in which we believe, and the manner in which we think.